We keep God's commandments out of love. John 14:15 tells us, it says, if you love me, keep my commandments. That's the saying that those who love me will keep my commandments. Those who don't keep my commandments, you're not demonstrating your love. People often feel threatened by that which demands a sudden change in their lifestyles. Many reject the truth mainly because their unwillingness to change may override their desire to obey God. What law ended at the cross? What law ended? A law ended at the cross. Let's discover what law ended at the cross. I've been moved to write concerning Colossians 2:14 through 17. I feel that many people are being misled by a faulty conception of this text. When Jesus died, his blood served as a supreme sacrifice to God for the sins of the world. The death of Jesus brought an end to the tedious sacrificial system. Let's see how the Bible interprets itself. Blotting out the handwriting of ordinances that was against us, which was contrary to us, and took it out of the way, nailing it to his cross, and having spoiled principalities and powers. And we discovered what principalities and powers were, didn't we? Fallen angels. Having spoiled principalities and powers, he made a show or shew of them openly, triumphing over them in it. Let no man therefore judge you in meat. That's important. Remember this part. In meat, or in drink, or in respect of an holy day, or of the new moon, or of the Sabbath days, which are a shadow of things to come, but the body is of Christ. That's Colossians 2:14 through 17. The first thing we see here is the fact that whatever it was that was blotted out, it was handwritten, and it was called ordinances. Also, the blotted out law contained meats, drinks, holy days, new moons, and Sabbath days. See all them S's? Sabbath days. It's important that you understand that it's Sabbath days, not the Sabbath day. We're going to be talking about a definite and indefinite article in a minute, between the and a, the Sabbath and a Sabbath. Now let's reason this out. Let's go to Exodus chapter 20, verses 1 through 17. The first commandment says, and God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. The second commandment says, thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord, thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity, which is sin, of the fathers upon the children, unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. There's that love again, isn't it? Third commandment says, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. I've talked to so many people, I'm sure you have too, in a hobby, they say, oh God, and they're not talking to God. They just say that in vain. This is breaking that commandment. God says don't do that. The fourth commandment says, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all of thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. The fifth commandment says, honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. The sixth commandment says, thou shalt not kill. The seventh commandment, thou shalt not commit adultery. The eighth commandment says, thou shalt not steal. And the ninth commandment says, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. And the 10th commandment says, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. Amen. Now either all 10 of these commandments are still binding, or none of them are. This is a package deal, don't you see? We can't accept 9 and reject 1. There's no 10% discount on God's law. God didn't give us 10% off. What we saw in Exodus 20, verse 3, ask yourself if it's still binding or not. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. How about verses 4 and 5? They tell us not to worship idols. Verse 7 says, don't call the Lord's name in vain. Verse 8 tells us to remember the 7th day to keep it holy. Remember, the blotted out law contains Sabbath days. I put a bunch of S's there for emphasis. Could this mean that this commandment no longer applies to God as God wrote it on stone with his own finger? As we continue on down to verse 17, continuing on down, we saw no references to meats, did we? Drinks, new moons, or Sabbath days. So let's look for a law that contained all of these, and we will find a set of rules that was blotted out. Exodus chapter 25 verse 21 says, and thou shalt put the mercy seat above upon the ark, and in the ark thou shalt put the testimony that I shall give thee. We can see from Exodus 25:21 that the 10 commandments were placed in the ark of the covenant, in the center, in the ark. This is just a transparent view so you see what's in it. There's Aaron's rod that budded there. There's the 10 commandments on 2 tables of stone, and there's a pot of manna. The ceremonial law is over here in the side of the ark. Deuteronomy 31:26 says, take this book of the law and put it in the side of the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God, that it may be there as a witness for thee, a witness against thee. According to Deuteronomy 31:26, there was a book of the law placed in the side of the ark of the covenant.